Well, this is a straightforward request. The person wants to know how to paint shine on metals like copper and silver. How about if I show you how to figure it out? The first thing we need to look for when we're looking for anything, or one of the first things, is what colors are we seeing? If you just keep calling it copper or any other kind of metal, you're not going to see anything but copper and metal, and that doesn't give you any information about what you're seeing. But if you ask yourself, what colors am I seeing in there? You'll get some answers. Not only what colors am I seeing in there, but what value do I see in those colors? So, what about right in here? Now, this is, once again, it's not going to be one where I show you, I'm not going to paint the whole thing for you. I'm going to show you how to figure it out and how to get going, and you can take it from there. I don't believe in this spoon feeding. I believe if you learn how to see and learn what techniques you need, you can paint anything you want to paint just by figuring out. So that's what we're going to do. What do we see here? What do we see in terms of color? Now, I like to use the color wheel, and because there is where our information is. That tells us what colors, how to recognize the colors. Now, right in here, we're seeing almost a white, aren't we? It does lean a little bit towards yellow-orange. Very, very light yellow-orange. Maybe a little bit of yellow in there. But we got to remember this is a photograph. And the photographs will often show you more in terms of the color than you'll see with your eye and when you're looking at the real thing. But the photograph can give you some clues as to how you can make that shine appear as a shine. If you're looking at a metal that's really, really got a mirror finish on it, you're going to see things reflected into it. But this is a copper with a kind of a matte finish on it. So it's showing more of the light reflecting than it is images reflecting in it. We start here, and then you can learn to build your way towards finding the images that are reflected in it. All right, so we're seeing a light. Now look right here. What are you seeing right here? Right here. If you look really, really close, isn't that an orange? Isn't that a light orange? Now, you would recognize that if you knew what orange does when white is mixed with it. So let's pause for a moment. If you have an orange like cadmium orange on your palette, mix it with a little white and compare it for something like that. So I don't have an orange on my palette, but I can sure mix one. This is cadmium yellow light, and beside it is cadmium red light. Those two colors will mix orange. Will combine together. It tells us right here that yellow orange plus red orange equals orange. The color wheel tells us a lot of things, and I just wish I could, if nothing else, get every painter in the world dependent on the color wheel, or at least knowing how to use the color wheel. It can be such a help when you know how to use it. All right, so there's an orange. Now, if I would mix white to lighten that orange, white into the orange itself, show you what we get. So we just pull the orange into the white. And you see what the white does when we mix that orange into it. The white sort of subtracts out a little bit of the yellow. But if we hold it right here, what do you see? That's exactly what we're looking at. So we're going from a very, very light, let's do the yellow-orange part. And I knew that was yellow-orange because I could recognize the yellow in it, or the yellow-orange in it. And after you work with the color wheel for a while, you can begin to do that. So I'm just going to put yellow orange by itself into a white, and going to mix that very light, so light that we don't really see the orange anymore. Let's see, that is very close. It's still not quite light enough. All right, let's mix it. There we go. Can you see that now? There we go. That's what we're looking at right there. Now, what we see that mixing into as it moves in here, we can tell right back here where there's not quite as much light reaching. You see that orange, the lighter orange you see right in here, and moving in this direction. If you were used to working with color this way, you would recognize that as a red orange that is desaturated. Now, the red orange I have that's desaturated is the Rembrandt Transparent Oxide Red. Well, let's add just a tiny bit of white into Rembrandt Transparent Oxide Red. And I'm showing you how to figure this out now. Let's just leave it right there. And can you see, you can begin to see a little bit of that right there, and next to this one. Now let's what I'm going to do there is I'm going to mix a little bit more white into that. And we're going to add a little bit of blue to it. Now, why would we do that? Well, if you look right across the color wheel, from orange, you see blue, and that blue is this complement. That means the blue, when you add the blue into it, it will desaturate it. And in this case, if you add just blue by itself, it would also make it a little darker. So let's add a little bit of blue in there. And we'll hold it up here, and you see what I mean? Now you're beginning to see that happen. Now, as it goes around away from the light, right there, it gets even darker. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring the transparent oxide red down right here, and add a little bit more of the blue to it. And what I want to do is to get that, take away the blue is going to subtract out the red, the orange, and the red orange. If you hear, I know you can't help but hear my cat Charlie in the background. We often hear him in the background of these quick tips, and he's not in pain or anything. He just wants attention. He has this way when he wants attention of sounding terribly pitiful. I think I probably overdid that, a little bit too much blue, so let's just throw a little bit of that red back in there. So it's really, really, really fun and invigorating to play with color like this. So what we'll do is let's put just a tiny bit of white now. And there we go. There we go. I see it right there. You see that? Right. Let's see it. Get just a little bit more. Let's pull it over in here. Let's do it this way. There it is. There it is. You see it right there? Can you see how we've got it right there, exactly what we need. Now, once you figure out the colors that you need, then you ask yourself, well, what technique do I need? How do I apply that with a brush? How do I put it on the canvas with a brush? Well, there are two ways that colors can, colors side by side can exist on a canvas. One is blended and the other is unblended. And of course, both of those are general. But so if you will see these gradating, you're gradually changing, you'll know it's blended. And so that requires a blending technique. All right, so what I'll do here, and just very, very quickly, I just want to show you the basics of this. I'll just put just a little bit of this darker color on the brush. And let's just indicate here where the side of that might go. We'll indicate a little bit of brownness there. Don't need to do the other side. I only need to show you just a little bit here. So we'll just leave it like that. Well, I could go ahead and just sort of suggest where the other side would be, sort of like that. It's always better to start with the dark and work towards the light. And so what I'll do here now is I'll go to this color that I mixed, and now I'll pull my brush into this color that I mixed. This is just the blue into the transparent oxide red. Better way to say that is it's the blue into red orange. And just mix that. And often a good way to be sure that you have the color you need on your brush, just hold the brush up next to that color and see. And then this is one way to create a blend. Put the colors side by side first. So I'll just show you just a portion of that. So then I would just go up here to where the rim is there. And I'll just put that color down. And that color is a bit transparent, so I'll put it down a little bit thicker than that. Sort of like that. Now let's see, I'll let it come down at an angle like this does. So load the brush again and come down, perhaps about right there at about an angle, about like that. A little bit of a shaky hand this morning. All right, now I'll go to the next color and just add that into the brush without wiping the brush. Just add that color into the brush, and then I will just lay that color in right here, just like that. Maybe I better go this way with it. Just go down like this with it. I see that moving both ways, so that works fine just to do that. Now I'm going to pull that out of the brush and go into this next color. I might need to add some more white to that, or some more of that yellow orange to that. But let's see if I don't have it right there. I believe I can do that right there. So let's just, so what I'm doing is I'm going from dark to light within the colors that I mixed, going from dark to light. So we just go right here and down, stroke. I pull the color into the color that's already there and pull it down like that. Now wipe it out again. This time I think I'll rinse the brush out because I'm getting into those lighter colors. When you rinse the brush out, always really squeeze that solvent out of the brush. Then we'll go into this color. Now I do need to mix more of that. I was a little bit stingy on my mixing, so I will just mix a little bit more of that. Now once again, in the mix I get here, I want to be sure I'll pull enough orange into the white till I'm sure I have what I need there. It's always better to be sure that you have the color you need on your palette before you put it on the painting. If you just if you kind of guess at it and you mix something and put it on the painting, it's not right, and you do another, you get yourself a mess and end up with sort of muddy colors. Need a little bit more of that red in there, I see. Just a tiny bit. All right, so let's see, do I have that? That's probably close enough. Now let's put that in. All right, now, just doesn't need to be much at all. You see, that's a very thin yellow orange we see there. And of course, as it comes down here, it gets less so. So I think I better just go right up in here for this part right here. In fact, when that comes down, doesn't that get a little lighter? So let's do it this way. Let's put a little light in here and pull the brush down. I put that light directly into there we go. That's it right there. And pull that down just like that. Now the white, what we can do before we put the white on, or the lighter part, what we can do is to rinse the brush really thoroughly and blend. Now sometimes, well, let's see if we can make this brush. So the way we'll blend is I'll just move it back and forth like this. Use the tip of the brush in a very light touch and pull one direction and then another direction. Pull one direction, this color into this color back. Just pull them back and forth and just a light touch. And when you see that they begin to blend, then you move on. Now you can use that zigzag kind of motion like this as you go down like this, and then wipe it off and then come down in a vertical like that, and you can get that blend. You just keep hitting it until, or I should say, it's kind of a caressing it. And I see this going in this direction, so I can go this way too with that. Now let's go to the next one. In fact, I believe I probably am able to take those together and just blend those right into each other. Now, if you overblend, that's what you got to watch for. If you overblend, they'll all disappear. So we just look just between those edges. It's where we're working, just in between those edges of color, like that. And then we can go for the lightest light. And that's where I'm going to get this right here, the lightest light right there. I'm going to put this down here, like this, and bring it down. And let's see, what does that do? It doesn't stay light like that too far down. It's just there at the top, and then it begins to get more of the, I believe, see that, I bet it gets more of this mixture right here. So just look for that. There we go, like that, as it comes down. And then it gradually, as this comes down, as it goes around that little curve in the, is that a cup or a vase, one or the other, it begins to get darker. So let's just get this. Which dark is it? It's this one right here. Yes, that's the one. So it just pulls over like that. Work that in. Didn't get enough. Didn't get quite enough paint on the brush. That is important. If you have too much paint on the brush, it will get too sloppy. It'd be difficult to blend. If you have too little paint on the brush, then you don't have enough paint to go on. So we really have to gauge the amount of paint that goes on the brush. But we go right here just like that. Just like that. Now I'm going now to rinse that brush again, and we'll blend again. So be sure that it's rinse, and thoroughly dry. Thoroughly dry. All right, where to start? I can start right here. I'm going to blend into the white. Here we go. Just like that. Come down. Come down. Like that. Come down. Wipe it off. Now I see this moving in this direction, so I move in that direction. Like that. And let's pull this down, get it blended more. Pull it down till we see it. I see that the whole thing, I'm just going to pull over like that. And let's see, keep. But when you see, once you see it blended, then get out of there and move forward. So I'm going to use just the corner of the brush here. Come down, you see, and just a very gentle touch as you're coming down, you begin to see that happen. And so you can begin to see now how that works. Now for just a sort of a final touch, you go in and get that, pick up the darker version of that color. And we can see it's a little bit darker right up here. So then this would be what we call, we use the term refinement, meaning that we're putting the finishing touches on it. Then we could come right around to the edge with that sort of darker version. And you see that adds that little bit of depth to it. Then we could go back into that darkest version, like that. Come back to the edge like this. Just a little bit, pull it in gently. Pull it in gently. So all this is technique. If you can carry yourself through just some exercises, just using this technique and what you know about painting, where you make first the discovery of the color. Oops, I got a little bit of a shaky hand there. Where you make first the discovery of color, then the discovery of what technique you're going to need. And it's a blending technique. This is how you would go about it. You see there, except for this little area right down here that we haven't addressed yet, we almost have that We almost have that working, and now we're getting closer to working. So the question to ask when you're moving through here are questions like, does it need to be darker or does it need to be lighter? Does it need to be more blended? Does it need to be less blended? But you don't ask the question, does it look like copper? That's the wrong question. If it's doing all the things that you see it doing here, like all the where it's blending, you're blending, where it's changing color, you're changing color, that sort of thing. If that's what you're doing here, then it's going to read like copper. So give that a try and see if you don't have fun with it. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.